Recently, I have noticed that a lot more resellers are giving up on their reselling businesses. And it's for a number of reasons. For some people, it's because they have found jobs that they think are better fits for them, things with a salary. Maybe people have realized that they're not very good at being their own boss. But for a lot of people, they're giving up on reselling because they're feeling overwhelmed, they're feeling overworked, they're feeling unsatisfied. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 top reasons resellers are quitting and ways that you can avoid maybe some of the unpleasantries that come with reselling. Stay tuned.
Won't nobody love you the way they should. Won't nobody check up on you, make sure you're good. Won't nobody check those body tremors for your neck.
Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park and I've been a part-time reseller now for close to 5 years. And what I mean by that is that I have a full-time job as a high school choir teacher, but this is something that I do on the side. And while I do believe it is a great side hustle, one of the greatest side hustles out there, it can be overwhelming. It can take up a lot of your time. It's definitely not something to do just kind of leisurely, but despite the fact that it can be difficult at times, here I am almost 5 years later, still at it. And so I'm going to share with you, like I said, the 5 reasons why I think a lot of resellers are quitting and ways to maybe not fall into some of those traps. Let's jump right into the first reason why a lot of resellers are quitting. So I would say the first 3 reasons kind of fall under the umbrella, the big umbrella of feeling overwhelmed. And I think the first reason why resellers feel so overwhelmed is because at the very beginning, they buy way too much inventory. Now, if you're anything like me, when you first fell down the rabbit hole of reseller content, you realize there's a whole community of people who do this on YouTube and on Instagram, and you were like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that this was a thing. Probably one of the first things that you came across were thrift hauls or what sold videos, and you were hearing about these people who just go shopping. That's like part of the side hustle, is spending money and shopping and bringing all that stuff home and getting it listed online and selling it. The exciting part of that is going shopping. I remember when I first started watching reseller content and watching people go to the thrift store and buy things, I was like, hold up, let me go to the thrift store right now and let me see what I can pick up. I think just a few months ago, I finally sold the last item that I still had listed from my very first thrift haul. I remember that thrift trip like it was yesterday. It was at a Salvation Army. That was the first time I went thrifting with the intent to buy items to resell. And I bought all this stuff that I thought was going to do so well. And here I was, almost 5 years later, I still had one of those items because it was not a good pickup. It was not something that I needed to go to the thrift store and buy and bring into my house. And the issue is a lot of people, when they start reselling, they buy way too much stuff at the beginning because they're so excited at the prospect of thrifting and saving all these clothes, but they get it all home and they get overwhelmed by the volume of inventory that they have. And before they can even make a dent in it, they give up because it's too overwhelming. So how can you combat that? Simple. Don't buy more than what you can list. Everyone has different systems for this. To be honest, I have a very high tolerance for having a large volume of unlisted inventory in my home. My husband's tolerance is a little bit less, but it's not overwhelming to me. In fact, for me, it's kind of exciting to know that I have a money pile, if you will, to know that I have all this inventory waiting for me at home to list. It's like insurance for me, if that makes sense. But for some people, if they were to walk into my home and see all of that unlisted inventory, it would give them a panic attack. It would cause anxiety because for them to see all of that clothes is a symbol of all of the work that needs to be done. And a lot of people don't like that physical representation of all of that work. And so you just need to know for yourself, what can you handle? What is triggering to you? And make sure that you avoid those things. I know a lot of people, what they do is they purchase a rack like this. By the way, mine is from Amazon. I will have it linked down below in the description. It's a really great rack and has not broken on me yet, like a lot of the other cheaper plastic ones. But what a lot of resellers do is they will purchase a rack like this and they will make a rule stating they're not allowed to buy anything if this rack is full. Only when there is space on the rack can they buy items to fill the rack up, but anything more than that, they're not allowed to pick up. And that keeps them disciplined. That makes sure that they're listing the items that they're bringing home, and it keeps people from feeling overwhelmed. That's just one example of a way that you can control the amount of inventory that comes in, but those are the kinds of ground ground rules that I would make for yourself if you know that you get anxious easily. You don't want to give up on reselling simply because you are overwhelmed by the amount of unlisted inventory that you have in your home. The second reason that a lot of resellers fail that falls under the umbrella of feeling overwhelmed, it kind of has to go with the first reason, but it's because of the amount of clutter or mess that reselling can create in their home. So, in the past year or two, I've had a lot of resellers reach out to me and ask if I want to buy them out, if I want to buy their inventory, or if I want to buy just a portion of their inventory. And it's because they're not only feeling overwhelmed by the amount of inventory that they have, but they're feeling overwhelmed by how much clutter it creates in their space. This again is where I have a very high tolerance of the amount of clutter that I'm able to live amongst. Like, my husband will ask me all the time,
how can you live like this?
And I tell him, simple, I breathe, I eat. He does not like that answer. But the truth is, I can be surrounded by clutter, which right now I am. I'm surrounded by clutter, and it doesn't really bother me. I can function just as well in this kind of space as I can in a really clean and pristine place. It just doesn't really faze me. However, I know that I'm not the norm, and I know that there are a lot of people that it really bothers them to walk into their home and walk into boxes of clothes, walk into boxes of hangers, walk into items that need to get inventoried or steamed or, put away. I know that that bothers a lot of people because many of those resellers have reached out to me saying that they just cannot take it anymore and they just want to get rid of all of that stuff. So how can you combat that? Make sure that there is a home for everything that you bring into your house. Make sure that there is a place for items that are waiting to get photographed. Make sure that there is a place for things to go once they're listed. Make sure that there is a place for all of your shipping supplies. Make sure that you're not bringing in more than what you have room for in your house. I'm really lucky, our house is pretty big. We have this big kind of bonus room that I'm sitting in right now. It's a 5th bedroom, but it's not really a bedroom. We'd never use it as one because it's right above the garage. It's really big, but just kind of awkwardly shaped because there's lots of angles in the ceilings and stuff. But it's perfect for all of my racks with all of my bins of clothes. I've got a big closet back there that I can put shoes and other reselling supplies in. So if I wanted to take the time to clean and tidy up, I could really hide away or at least organize all of the things that have to do with my reselling business, and it wouldn't feel too cluttered. It would be pretty organized if I wanted it to be so. But if you don't have the space for that, don't bring in more than what you have space for. And that's one way that you can combat feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you want to give up on reselling because of the clutter that it causes. The next reason that a lot of resellers give up on reselling that falls under the umbrella of feeling overwhelmed is that they try to scale too much too fast. What I mean by scale is they try to grow their business, and that can look a number of ways. It could be, again, just simply bringing in too much inventory. It can be they try to scale as far as bringing on employees. It could be they try to scale in terms of they're trying to add other facets of their reselling business. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's affiliate marketing, maybe it's trying to create and sell a course. They're trying to do this much, but they only have the capacity to do this much. And so they're feeling overwhelmed because they're being stretched too thin. They're not doing a good job at really anything. Everything is just kind of mediocre, and therefore they give up because it's not a great feeling to go to bed each night feeling like you're not really that good at anything. Things are slipping through the cracks, and even though you've scaled, because you're not able to keep track of everything, because you've scaled too fast, you're not really doing a good job, and you're just doing more work without making that much more money. How do you combat that? Simple. You have to ask yourself, what is your capacity? What are you able to handle? I'll be honest, I think that in the height of COVID, I got to a place where I had taken on more than what I actually could handle. I was doing a lot of different things. I was wearing a lot of different hats. And as a result, I really burned out, and I'm still kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. I got to a place where I didn't want to post on social media anymore. I didn't want to upload new videos. I didn't really want to list or resell or talk about reselling. I was just kind of going through the motions, and it was because I had taken on too much and I had lost any joy that I had in any of the things that I was doing. doing. And so one thing that I'm being far more pickier about moving forward is asking myself before I take on a project or before I do anything really, is this going to bring me joy? You know, I've had people reach out to me on Instagram and ask me, will you mentor me when it comes to reselling? I will pay you X amount. And they're willing to pay me like a good amount. But I have to ask myself, honestly, is that something that's going to bring me enough joy that I'm willing to take the already very limited time out of my life to do that? Time that I could be spending with my family, time that I could be spending with my friends or my students. The answer is no. You have to understand what your capacity is. And sometimes, unfortunately, the only way for us to discover that is to take on more than we can handle and to be in that space where we are feeling overwhelmed and where we are feeling like we cannot do it all and we cannot do it all well. And only then can we learn how to take a step back, learn how to say no. You know, we can take everything off of our plate and really think carefully before putting anything back on it. I get it. I get the desire to want to scale your business because usually, right, that means more money. But if you're not in a place where you can scale yet, if you're not in a place where you can add to your plate, where you can add social media, where you can add YouTube, where you can add, you know, selling a course or something like that. If you don't have the capacity to add those things, adding those things is not only going to prevent you from making more money, but it's going to steal joy away from your life. And your joy, your mental well-being, all of that is worth protecting and so much more important than scaling your business. Again, I have had so many resellers reach out to me, or I've heard, you know, anecdotally about resellers who have stopped reselling because they tried to scale too fast and the result was not what they thought it was. The result was not more money, it was not more happiness, it was not more X, Y, and Z. Instead, a lot of people just ended up quitting reselling altogether, and that's what we're trying to avoid. The fourth reason why I think a lot of resellers quit reselling is because they are not good at being their own boss. They're not good at creating a schedule for themselves and sticking to it. They're not good at being consistent with all things reselling, you know, listing, shipping, all of those things. They think that because they're their own boss, they can just kind of take however many breaks they want, they can work when they feel like it. But the truth is, a lot of us don't like to work. You know, we don't wake up thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, like I cannot wait to do all of this work and hit the ground running. You know, for a lot of people, if you have the choice to work or to relax, people are going to choose to relax 9 times out of 10, right? It's easier, it's more fun. That's what they're going to choose. And so a lot of people give up on reselling because they don't find any success with it because they're not good at being their own boss. How do you combat that? Again, it's gonna depend on how you function. I know sometimes what helps me when I'm feeling unmotivated is I will sit down with a piece of paper and I will write out literally everything that needs to get done. And then I will look at my schedule and I will schedule out when all of those things are going to happen. By having my schedule on paper that I have to look at and setting timers for when I'm supposed to be done with, you know, this task, when I'm supposed to move on to that task, one, it helps make sure that things don't slip through the cracks. Two, it gives me the structure of you only have this much time to get this job done. And three, it's motivating to get through my list, check off things that I was able to accomplish, and know that I'm on my way to having a productive day. Again, that's what works for me. I don't know what's going to work for you, but what you have to do is grapple with the fact, first and foremost, that if you're not good at managing yourself, if you're not good at being your own boss, you have to name that first. You have to say, I'm not good at this, and then start figuring out what you need to do to create consistency within your day, within your week, within your month, to make sure that these things are happening that need to be happening within a reseller business to create the success that you're looking for. The fifth thing that we'll talk about in this video, and this might seem kind of weird and out there and kind of random, but I would almost say that this is the number one thing I hear from resellers as to why they quit reselling, and it's a really sad one. The reason is that they are not getting any buy-in from their family. I have a lot of resellers who are women who will reach out to me and they will ask the question, how do you get your husband to support you? And they're not even talking about, you know, support me in terms of helping me out with my reselling business, because my husband does. He, you know, helps me by, you know, getting stains out of items. He'll come thrifting with me. He will take care of a lot of stuff around the house so that I don't have to do those things and I can take that time and put it into my reselling business. They're not even asking, like, how do I get that kind of support from my husband? They're asking, how do I get my partner to believe in me and to stop telling me that I'm wasting my time. That to me is really sad to hear, and I can only imagine how hard it is to work as hard as they're working, all while, their loved ones behind them are telling them that they're wasting their time or are telling them that they need to go get a real job. So a lot of people call it quits on reselling because the people around them don't believe in them. A lot of people around them don't think that they're going to be able to make a viable or dependable income with reselling. And for that reason, resellers quit. So the question I get, probably more than anything else, is how do I get my husband, my partner, my family to believe that I can do this, to believe that this is the road I should go down? Again, I know this is kind of a cop-out answer, but it is kind of different for everyone. But what I always come back to is you have to prove to them that this can make you some serious money. The numbers are what will shut them up. To be honest, I am the type of person, I think it's my ADHD, I go from one project to another, and I am so excited about every single project. There was a time when I was super into couponing. I bought the binder, I bought the little sheet protectors that you use to put baseball cards in, but I would put coupons in them. I clipped all of the coupons from the Sunday. I went down the rabbit hole. I spent so much money on the supplies for couponing and coupon for I want to say 3 to 5 months. My husband, because he is the wonderful, supportive, loving, and kind man that he is, he was, he came along for the ride. He let me do my thing, knowing full well that this was not going to last. I got super into, decorative planning. I got super into gardening. I got super into all these things. And some of those things have stuck around in some capacity, but nothing really lasted for very long. I just get really excited about things, but the excitement fizzles out. So when I first started talking to him about reselling and wanted to go thrifting and wanted to sell stuff online, in the beginning, he was super reluctant to buy into it because my track record suggested that this obsession would only last for maybe a couple months. However, for whatever reason, I kept at it. I obsessively watched YouTube content so that I could learn as much as I could about reselling and about which brands to pick up and how to price things and how to list and how to, work with all the different platforms. I grew the number of platforms that I sold on. I expanded the kind of stuff that I was selling. And when I got to the point that I was making $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. What could he say? I was changing our quality of life because of the amount of money that I was bringing in. When I told him I wanted to start a YouTube channel, again, he was skeptical. Even though I had shown that I was really dedicated to reselling, YouTube is a whole nother beast. Again, he was super nervous that I would get super invested into the idea of YouTube, and rightfully so, because my track record suggested that this was something that I was going to be excited about for only a few months and then it would just kind of fade away. But for whatever reason, I was really consistent with it. And even though it took away some of the time that I was able to spend with him and with my family, and even though I was working really hard into the late hours of the night, I soon started making $100 a month and then $500 a month and then $1,000, $2,000 a month from YouTube. And I was able to post those kinds of numbers consistently. And again, he was able to see all of this money coming into our bank account. To be honest, before I started reselling, before I started YouTube, we were living paycheck to paycheck, and there were months that we had to pull money out of our savings because we didn't have enough to pay for all of the different things that we had going on in our lives. We were living in a house with a mortgage that was just a little bit outside of what we could actually afford given our 2 teacher salaries. Sometimes there would be medical emergencies. We had to get a new car at one point because, there were just different expenses that would pop up, and we lived very frugally for the first few years of our marriage. But even with living frugally, there were times that we weren't really making ends meet. We had to borrow money, we had to do different things. Thankfully, we never went into credit card debt or anything like that. We weren't able to live comfortably. And now, like I said at the beginning of the video, I am approaching my 5-year anniversary of reselling. I think I've been on YouTube for maybe 3.5-ish years, something like that. And because I've stayed consistent with these things, and because there are these other income streams as well, my husband fully supports me, not just in that he lets me do it, but he will help out in any way that he can because I've proven to him that one, I'm going to keep at it. This is not a fad. I'm not going to just be done with this in the next couple months. And two, I have proven to him financially that it is worth it for me to invest my time and energy into reselling, into YouTube, into all these other things because there is a monetary outcome. And with that, we're able to go on these really cool vacations. We're able to, get a new Christmas tree when we want. We just got a Christmas tree yesterday at Costco. We're able to do these things that before we were not able to. And don't get me wrong, making more money does not equate a better life. There are plenty of people out there who have no money, who are much happier than myself. And there are plenty of people out there who are filthy rich, who are the saddest people that walk this earth. Money does not define your quality of life. It does not define how much happiness you have, but having enough money to pay your bills and then some, being able to go on vacation when you want, being able to do these things, it has not hurt our quality of life, I will say that much. And it is the main reason why my husband and even my family support me as much as they do. It's because I've been able to prove to them that I'm serious about this and because I am making good money with reselling and YouTube. So if you are in a position where the people around you whose support you desperately not only want but need, you're not really getting it from them, I would sit them down and say to them, listen, I need you to give me 3 months, 6 months to really try this thing out for real and show you that I can make good money doing this and show you that I'm going to stick to this. I'm not going to give up on it. Ask them to give you that period of time. And during that time, they don't need to support you by doing all of the things alongside you. They don't need to help you, but they need to keep their negative energy to themselves and let you at least try. Ask them to at least give you that. And what you need to do during that time is work your tail off, prove to them that this is something that could change not only your life, but theirs as well. Remind them this is just the beginning. You're only going to get better. So those are the 5 reasons that a lot of resellers quit reselling. But if you're serious about reselling as a side hustle, or even if it's something that you want to do full time, I hope that this video highlighted some of the reasons why resellers just don't make it and helped you figure out ways to avoid those scenarios, avoid those traps, and set you up for years and years of success as a reseller. If you enjoyed this video, I would so appreciate it if you could hit that like button so that other people are able to discover this video as well. And if you don't mind sharing it to your social media, like your Instagram, your Facebook, just let your friends in your community know about this video and this channel and the impact that it's had on you. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate you spending your time with me like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.